Alright, good morning y'all. Today we're going to work on this Enfield some more. We're going to do all of the conservation on the metal parts. We're going to get rid of all this crud and gunk that is all over this thing, which you can see it is definitely filthy. And then we're going to take care of the rust. So first step, we're going to do all the heavy cleaning. Got a pan full of mineral spirits here. Got a bunch of nylon brushes. You don't want to use metal brushes because we're not trying to physically remove the rust. We want to leave that patina because we're going to re-blue this. Well, it's not really re-bluing. What you're basically doing is taking red iron oxide, and chemically changing it to black iron oxide, also known as bluing. We're also going to do all the small parts and separate out the parts that don't need to be converted back to bluing. So let's get started with the heavy cleaning, and then we'll come back and start the next step after that. So. Okay, now that we've got all of the major heavy crud and oil off of the parts, the second time around we're going to wear gloves because we don't want to have any fingerprint oils or any gun oils left on any of these metal parts. They need to be dry. We've got acetone in the cleaning pan this time. And mainly what we're trying to do with this round is just make sure there's no oil on the surface, and if you see any spots you missed cleaning the crud the first time around, you can go ahead and get it now. But mainly you're just trying to get all the oil off of the parts. And that mostly is just going to consist of making sure you rub everything down, and then we'll dry it off with some compressed air. So let's get after it. Okay, once you've got everything fully degreased, then you're going to want to let everything dry real good and get it all ready to be converted. So let me get everything set up for that, and then I'll bring you back and show you what we're going to do with these parts to turn all of this nasty red rust into beautiful black oxide bluing before, and then we'll card it and it'll look like it did from the factory. So give me a second to get all that stuff set up and I'll be right back. Alright, so we got all the parts strung up. You can see we got the barreled action in this long tank. Now this water is still heating up, but I went ahead and put it in there because it's easier to put it in there when the water's not boiling. Got the magazine housing right there. And then we've got this pot over here. We've got these little screen cups that have all the little small parts in them. and then the other parts are wired and hanging in the boiling water there. So we're going to let all this stuff boil for about an hour, hour and a half, and then I'll bring you back so we can see what it looks like. Now this is just plain tap water. In my area here, our tap water has not got a lot of minerals in it, so it works good for this. If your tap water has a lot of minerals and chemicals in it, you probably want to use distilled water for this process. But either way, basically it's just a chemical reaction. You're turning the red rust iron oxide into black oxide. One of these days I'll do a video on bluing and explain all that, but this is how it was done in the old days. This is why it's called rust bluing. So I'll bring you back in an hour or so once this stuff's all ready and finish the process. Okay, once your stuff has been boiling for a good long time, this stuff's been in here over an hour. What I'm going to start doing is removing it one piece at a time, and we're going to card it. Now the reason I remove it one piece at a time is because if you find any pieces where you've still got some rust and you might need to put them back in, you want to keep that water boiling. Plus, as you remove the pieces, they'll flash dry, which is what you want them to do before you card them. And it just makes everything easier. So I leave everything boiling while I'm doing each piece. And you'll pull them out, and what you're going to need is a carding wheel. This is a carding wheel right here. This is an old drill press that I use as my carding machine. And you'll see this is a soft stainless steel wheel. Now this thing is soft. Even when it's running, you can put your hand on it, see, and it won't hurt your hand. And what that's going to do is take the puffy, and you'll see what I'm talking about with the puffiness. It's going to take the puffy iron oxide off and leave you with your blue finish. So let me set this here right quick, and we'll pull the first piece out and get started. So I usually will still wear gloves at this point, because if I have a piece that still needs time, then I don't want to get any oil fingerprints on it. You need to be careful not to burn yourself, because this stuff is going to be hot when it comes out of here. So the first piece I'm going to pull out is going to be this right here. Pull it out, lay it here, get the blowgun. Blow it off, and you can see this has got this kind of puffy look to it, and there's still some in the cracks and stuff. We'll take care of that. But so we'll take this over here, set the camera right here, get this thing set right. So I'll show you what this is doing. You can see on this side you've got the shiny, that's where I carded it, and then this side is still dull and puffy looking. So you're just taking it, and this wheel just kind of polishes all of that puffiness off and leaves you with your nice finish. Your insides, I got a little wire brush that's soft like that wheel, and you can just scrub it. You don't need to push this real hard into there. Just like using a polishing wheel, you're letting the wheel do the work. You don't need to push hard into it. You can see how much better that looks now. So once you've done that, then we'll take it over here and set it on the table. Once I get all the parts that are done out, we got to oil everything. But I don't want to do that right now because I suspect that I'm going to have to do some more on this barrel right here when I pull it out. Alright, so now you see, look at that, how much better that looks. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these parts up real quick, and I'll bring you back on the next step so I can go ahead and make some progress and get this done for this customer. Okay, once you've carded everything, and you know, you may have to run these back through a few times to get the color you want, but once you've got everything carded and colored, this is what you're going to do. You'll oil the hell out of all these parts. Now what I'm using is, this is 30 weight non-detergent motor oil. And don't be afraid to use it. Get it in there. Get it rubbed into all the nooks and crannies. Use your little acid brush or a paint brush and really get it in there. Get it into everything, because this is what's going to prevent this rifle from ending up all rusted again. So you really don't want to skimp on the oiling step. So we're going to oil every bit of this. Now on this we got this little hoop, so I'm going to take and make sure the bottom side of that gets oil underneath it. Very important. Also, you need to pay particular attention to any parts where you didn't take it fully apart, like this rear sight here. We're going to spend a little extra time making sure that we get oil into all the nooks and crannies of it. Very important. You do not want to give this gun back to your customer or put it in your safe and break it out a month later and have there be rust blooming out because you skimped time on a step. And now this is sloppy, you know, I'm getting oil all over this real thick, but when I go to reassemble this rifle, I'll be wiping all these parts down and removing all the excess. But for right now, better to have excess than not enough. And like around this slider, I'm gonna get all that oil on there and slide that up and down and make sure we get all the surfaces a good coating of oil. Don't want to leave anywhere untouched. Want everything to have a good coating of this oil. Like I said, when you go to reassemble it, you'll wipe most of this down, but putting this on here good and thick like this is going to allow it to soak into every nook and cranny and prevent it from blooming rust at a later time. And that's what we're wanting. Also, before I turned the camera on, I ran several patches down the bore full of oil. I mean sloppy full of oil. And for the same purpose. As I put this rifle together, I'll scrub the bore out. Now, a rifle this old, you will never get the bore, you know, this is never going to pass a white glove test. I don't care how much time you spend on it. It's never going to pass a white glove test. You're never going to be able to clean the bore enough to run a patch down it and have it come out clean, especially if you're using wet patches and cleaner. It'll just keep finding stuff. So at some point you have to just find yourself a happy medium and call it good as far as the bore goes. I mean, this rifle's been through 2 world wars and God knows what during its time in Ethiopia. So, you know, you want to get every surface a good coating of oil. And then again, back here we didn't take this rear side off because we didn't need to, and those are a pain in the behind to put back together. So you're better off not to mess with it if you don't have to. Plus the screw on this one's pretty mangled. So we're going to make sure we get plenty of oil all around and in every nook and cranny back here. And you're basically going to do this with every one of these parts that you did. So I'm going to finish these all up, and that's going to take a while, and nobody wants to sit there and watch a guy brush oil all over 100 parts. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and shut the camera off and finish this up. This will be it for this part of this series. And the next part will be the last part, which will be final assembly, where we'll put all of this back together along with the wood that we did in the previous video and see how she looks after serving for over 100 years. So, appreciate y'all watching, and y'all have a good one.